It's finally time to wrap up that trilogy, Vader Immortal, Episode 3.
Only you can face Vader. Our only hope is to attack his castle.
Due to some technical difficulties, I'll be doing this one solo. Drew is waiting for another Oculus controller, but I have my Oculus Rift S to jump into this one, Star Wars Vader Immortal, Episode 3. And I have to tell you, this one runs pretty well. Now, I have been a little bit spoiled in the recent past with Half-Life Alyx and other games, but I'm going to try to not let that creep into this review. Looking at this game on its own, against its own merits, and comparing it against maybe Episode 1 and 2 a little bit.
I know you did not choose this path, but our future depends on you.
I've actually reviewed Episodes 1 and 2 already for the show, so check out our past reviews if you want to learn a little bit more about those in depth. Now, this game and how it compares, I have to say, it's probably my second favorite, but I'll get into that a little bit later. This game picks up right where the story left off. It's the trilogy end cap, and you know that it's going into that Act 3. There's a lot of consequences, and the first two games were kind of a prepper. The first one was a little bit more adventure-y, action-y, had some combat in there, and was very story-driven. The second episode was a little bit lackluster. I feel like the story was very important. They told a necessary chunk, but there wasn't a lot of action, and it was very left a lot to be desired. This third game has filled in with a lot of the action, and of course, that crescendo of Episode 3 for the story. Getting into the action, though, they've changed a couple things. So now, right off the start in the dojo, you can go with dual lightsaber. You can also throw your lightsaber and pick up a blaster off of a dead enemy. These are all kind of new tweaks on the past, and in the past dojos as well. You've had the ability to use force powers, but not grab a gun and start firing back. So that's really cool. A little bit of inconsistency, though. In the story mode, you never learn how to use two lightsabers. You never learn how to throw your lightsaber. So it's kind of interesting that they kind of put these into the dojo, but not the actual fleshed out story mode. The story mode this time around has quite a few action-packed sections. There's one that I don't really enjoy. You're on top of a skiff. It's like a floating platform, essentially a shooter on rails. And that's my least favorite thing for VR. I feel like in this case it wasn't terrible. It just went on a little bit too long, maybe, in place of some other content. The battle sequences are cool, but you can kind of see the seams, I feel like. Their production just wasn't quite that polished. I don't know if they're trying to rush it out the door versus the first episode that was very detailed, but this one was just lacking a little bit of that polish. Certain enemies in the background, they kind of fade away. The laser shots from the big turret just kind of seem weird and disconnected. Just some little kind of nitpick things in the action sequences. That first game was very detailed. Episode 1 and 2, when you're following Vader, really got to show you the level of textures and the quality they put into the character models. All those characters are here. They have a little bit more use. I still don't like the droid very much, but she has a purpose in the story, and at least she became useful. Some of the other characters, they kind of don't seem to acknowledge you exactly, or they go into almost a cinematic trance before they snap out of it and find you wherever you are in the room. I thought that was kind of interesting. Again, I just don't know if it was a little bit of a rushed attempt, but the game is very short. Just like Episode 2, this one comes in at about 40 minutes, maybe a little bit longer than Episode 2. Certainly feels longer because there's a lot more weight to the story, and a lot of the action is a little bit more interesting. Instead of just throwing things around with the Force, you can pick guys up, throw them at each other, you can grab their blaster and fire back. That made it all a lot more fun, but maybe it kind of sped me through those events. I feel like they weren't as long as maybe they could have been, or maybe I'm just have that insatiable thirst for lightsaber combat. This was a lot more of a shooting gallery than it was lightsaber clashing. It really doesn't come up until the end, but again, I don't want to get into too many of the details here. I just want to tell you a little bit about the game and why I liked it. I did actually like it. I know I might be nitpicking here, but this is always fun to put a virtual reality goggle set on, no matter what it is, and play anything Star Wars, no matter what the quality. That's just a dream that everybody has, and it definitely gives you that moment of power throughout this episode a couple times.
You! So, you survived the caverns. No matter, you've arrived too late.
The dojo is where you go to play out more and play that fleshed out combat if you so desire. I just wish there was a little bit more lightsaber combat in that specifically. Being that it's such a short experience, I'm kind of glossing over things on purpose. I don't want to give it away, and I don't want to ruin that experience for anybody that is going to play it. I do recommend this one, although like I said, it is my second favorite in the series. The first episode was definitely the leading punch. The second one was a bit of a letdown, and this one picks it up quite a bit, but still kind of leaves a little bit to be desired. Again, maybe that's just the environment we live in now. Virtual reality is getting better, and they're going to have to make everything better to compete. But I cannot wait for that. These games are just getting better and better, and this one personally gets a 7 from me. Episode 3 improves on storytelling and is a short yet sweet ending to the trilogy. The combat is the best of the series, and the added gunplay was great.
Time for one final lesson.